Stop letting strangers see what you do online. Get protected at expressvpn.com/inside. What is Ubisoft's deal with drones?
We gon' party, hey, hey. We gon' party.
I realized this a little bit ago. Ubisoft loves drones. They got drones in everything. So many of their main titles are so drone forward in a way that I didn't realize. So Watch Dogs Legion is just overflowing with drones. It's like if Willy Wonka had a room in his factory dedicated to unmanned aerial crafts. You've got drones that watch things. You've got drones that are news drones. You've got drones that deliver. You've got drones that chase, that shoot missiles, that shoot guns, that shoot at you, that shoot for you. So many drones. You got drones that can carry you. Just like up and they go and they drop cargo. It's just so many drones. There's so many drones. But if you look back at recent Ubisoft games, you will find even more. Well, that's kind of hard to say. Legion is kind of like the logical endpoint to the drone mind sickness that Ubisoft has. And listen, I think they use them well. I think that they use them well. That's not to say that they couldn't use them better or that they don't use them too much. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I think I started to notice it when I was playing Division 2. In that game, you use them a little differently than you do in Watch Dogs. You can activate it on a cooldown to either heal you or shoot for you or defend you. It's cool. It works. It's good. I like drones anyway. Watch Dogs 2 introduced them into that franchise, but then you look in Ghost Recon Breakpoint also has a lot of drones, and these are all kind of like militaristic, kind of like shooty games, and like the moment I really started to appreciate how far this obsession went is when I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey for the first time, and you call upon your eagle to investigate like a space, and so like you hit whatever button it is, and then it calls the bird and it flies along, and then you go into stationary mode where I guess like a hummingbird, it just stays there in the air and you can look around at your leisure. And that's not how birds work. It's not how birds work. That's not how you have a bird do things bird does. It's a drone. That bird is a drone. I think it'd be funny if you put like feathers on a drone. By the way, I'm going off the cuff here, baby. I got no script. I'm sailing straight into uncharted waters and I am looking for the edge of the world because it's Thanksgiving week and it's short and I don't have time to research and write and articulate and formulate an argument my point. I just want to talk about how nuts it is that Ubisoft just like loves drones and puts them in everything. Puts them in everything now. Like their three main franchises, if you could call Tom Clancy a franchise, even though it's technically like 3. It's funny that it's Ubisoft that's got this fixation on drones because Ubisoft has been clowned on in the past for having a mechanic that it just uses to death, that it just murders. And if you know Ubisoft games of old, of the, mid to late 2000s, you know what I'm talking about. And that is watchtowers that you climb up to the top of and then you just see what's around you and it reveals all kinds of icons. Ooh, we love icons at Ubisoft, don't we, fellas? But yeah, I mean, that was super heavily used in earlier Assassin's Creed games and Far Cry, and it's just like, it's become such a thing for Ubisoft that they actually have made fun of themselves for doing so. At the beginning of Far Cry 5, you climb a tower and then the voice on the radio is like, don't worry, you're not going to be doing this the whole time. And it's like, I see you, Ubisoft, I see you. That's like the line from Avatar. Do you remember that part where Giovanni Ribisi is playing mini golf with a mug and then it comes at you from the screen? Just like, that's cinema. And we gotta open up theaters immediately to get Avatar playing again in 3D. Anyway, they acknowledged it. They were like, haha, hee hee, and then they took a different direction for the rest of the game, which I will tell you about later, and if you've already played it, you already know. The thing about drones for reconnaissance or surveillance or combat, it fits well into the whole fabric of the Ubisoft thing, because a lot of Ubisoft games, like many games, seems to be centered around infiltration, be it a base or a gang hideout or a castle. You want to get up high and you want to look down and you want to see what's going on. What better than a drone? Is it weird that the bird stops completely in its tracks when you're investigating in Assassin's Creed? Yes. I mean, Assassin's Creed, not the most realistic series. Jumping off of an enormous tower into a bale of hay is admittedly a bit of a stretch, but also a bird just staying totally stationary. It's called stationary mode. It just doesn't track. I laughed out loud the first time I saw it in Odyssey, which, as I understand it, is part of Origins, right? It's just a little goofy, and I also don't know if that's the best, because it feels like the bird is actually less useful in Valhalla than it was in Odyssey. And I didn't play Origin, but I assume that there's a pretty consistent through line between those two. And I feel like the game starts to toe the line with other ways to investigate a space. Anyway, keep the drones in your back pocket. I'm not saying don't use them anymore. However, Watch Dogs Legion is like so chock full of drones that it almost feels like a finale. Whiz bang, we got all the drones you could ask for. Drones. You want drones? Come on down, we got drones. Oops, all drones. We got them. All sorts of drones. And it's like a lot, and I don't know where you go from that, because it is kind of like the fire hose has been turned on all the way and we're getting all the drones. And so I don't really know where they go next with that. Like, is Far Cry 6 gonna have drones? I would hope not, because Far Cry 5 did some of the most interesting stuff in moving them away from their previous obsession, which was the tower that you would climb. So rather than climbing a tower or just sending an aircraft or birdcraft, if you want to call it that, up into the sky, instead you get little bits of information. You can get it from a road sign or a magazine, or you can just talk to an NPC that will be like, hey, I heard that there's a stash down the road. And it wasn't perfect, and there was other ways. You could just fly over stuff and find out that way and just drive around. But it felt like a cool, organic way of revealing things. And I don't know how that would work on a smaller setting, like an encampment full of enemies, but I feel like if any series could start to tackle it a little differently, Valhalla toes the line. I think I said that before. Valhalla toes the line in giving you different ways to interact. So it's got the distrust area, which kind of exists in a space between open space and restricted space, where if you keep up your hood and you keep your distance from certain scrutinizing eyes, you can get through it well enough. And there's ways to distract people away from you by like weaponizing a town drunk to make a distraction. And I think that stuff is really cool. And I'm like, well, what else could we get up to if we didn't have the bird to look for where we need to go? Like, if we could ask people. And I don't know. Listen, I'm not a game designer, and I also do like the games that Ubisoft has been making, and I think the drones work well, and I think they're really fun in Watch Dogs Legion. I guess I just don't want to see it become just like the thing, because they all have drones now. Like, so many of them. They all have drones. Is there like an exec that got a drone for their birthday in like 2011, and they were like, we gotta put this in all our games. This thing owns, because drones have risen in popularity in the last decade. I mean, we see them like everywhere, public parks, the beach. I see it in my neighborhood. Someone flies a drone around. I hate it because they buzz and are super annoying, but maybe Ubisoft is just looking at the trends and keeping up with that. To be honest, I don't even know if it's a problem that I need a solution to. It's just something I've noticed, that like all their games have drones in it, and I just wanted to talk about it because I was like, seems a little excessive. Like, it really shows in Assassin's Creed more than anywhere else. Anyway, those games are fun. They're good. They're like candy. You can just pop it. No one eats candy. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. Okay. Bye.
I was going to open this video with something along the lines of, well, the next-gen consoles are finally here after months of anticipation, but quite frankly, I just don't believe they exist. Sorry, but until I see a giant, disgusting monolith in my living room, the next-gen consoles are nothing but mere figments of my imagination. And probably yours too. Normally,